So Noom for me was great. And I lost another 60, 70 pounds with Noom. Now, over a 1.5 year period, which included being in quarantine in St. Martin, because we got stuck here. A lot of weird things going on. We all know 2020, or 21, actually, crazy years. So I got another chunk of weight off and stalled again. And this is another thing. You see people go, I'm going to lose weight by a certain date. Mm-hmm. You put so much pressure on yourself because every pound you lose is another pound towards it. So I got out of that mentality of when's the deadline or what's the event by. It's just every pound I lost was moving forward.
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. Know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out, episode 237. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. Hi.
Hi.
For the people watching this, it's like I slide the camera around, it moves on my computer. It doesn't move on my screen. It defies the laws of physics. I don't know what's happening. But anyway.
Hi.
What, let's just get right to it. What do you got in store for people this week?
Well, let's see. We're going to have a visit from John Mills. We're going to talk about some of this lawsuit stuff going on with Peloton and Lululemon. And we also have some other things to talk to John about, just because there are things that he's posted. I don't want to give away too much. So I'm curious about his take on some things. Then we had a visit from Dr. Jenn. She is going to help us with being consistent in your workout.
Okay.
And then we have a visit from MetPro. Angelo talks to us about recovering from our Thanksgiving feast. Like literally
our Thanksgiving feast. Because we might have gone off the wagon a little bit. Yeah.
Like all the way.
Yes.
And then we are going to be talking about the newest Peloton instructor, who is the first adaptable athlete that Peloton has hired. And then we're also talking about Peloton's hearing accessibility. They have a Peloton member that went and looked at a Bike Plus to see all of the hearing accessibility.
Yeah.
And of course, there's just a ton of new information about all of the instructors. Ooh, and we have some interesting stuff to discuss about the German instructor that just left. There's some interesting posts that have been made that we are going to do a deep dive into.
Awesome. Well, before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart. Wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. And if you would be so kind, leave us a review. We have a new review.
Ooh.
This is from DW Chick.
DW Chick. Okay.
Oh, it's just a CHK. I guess it could be a DW Chack. I don't know what that would be.
Check.
Or check, but I'm assuming check.
Okay.
It says outstanding resource. I've only had my Peloton Bike Plus for 2.5 months, and I'm a newbie to cycling. I'm so grateful for the recommendation to listen to this podcast. Tom and Crystal produce a professional, informative, upbeat, and entertaining podcast every week. Aww. It has been so enlightening to learn about Peloton and cycling through the Clip Out. I started by listening to recent episodes, and now I am working my way from the earliest to the most recent ones. Learning about Peloton's evolution as well as Crystal and Tom's fitness journeys has been fascinating. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for such a kind review.
Yeah, that's very nice of you. So you can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group. We had so many people.
So many.
Join the group this week. We don't know where he came from, but there was just an onslaught. I spent all day Tuesday just like approve.
I don't know. Somebody must have posted about us.
I guess. So thank you.
Yeah, did that. Thank you.
And finally, you can sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com. And finally, P.S., because there should have been one more thing. We have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/theclipout, where you can watch these episodes and you can see me trying to figure out why when I move this camera, the image doesn't change.
It is weird.
It's riveting. Mm-hmm. So there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Run, lift, and live with John Mills.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube, it's John Mills from Run, Lift, Live. Hey, John, how's it going?
How's it going? It's happening.
If he already looks tuckered out, it's because we were having a very funny conversation that you will never get to hear.
No, you won't.
Never.
No.
But boy, did you miss out.
Yeah, you guys missed it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling a little bit better, but this morning, you could tell I'm married. Because this morning, I ran into the gym in my garage, which is really cold, and I started working out. I immediately strained my back.
What?
But I know it was because I didn't stretch. And so now I needed help to get out of the garage, but I was afraid to text Erica because she would come in there and say, "Did you stretch?" So I laid on the floor in the garage for like 10 minutes.
Did you really?
Yeah. I was afraid to call her. I had my phone right there. I'm just surfing the internet. I can't get up. Yeah.
Googling for how to best recoveries when you forget to stretch. .org.
Oh, John.
Yeah, I eventually crawled out of the garage.
You crawled out.
I feel a little better now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, especially on cold days, man, you gotta warm up.
Gotta stretch, right?
Yeah, you can't just jump right into that. You gotta warm up slow.
Especially in Connecticut.
Yeah.
It gets cold there.
I know better. I know better.
It's a
Which is
different.
why I couldn't get myself to call Erica to help me out of the garage.
Does she know you crawled out of your garage? Does she know?
She knows now, but yeah, this morning I couldn't face her.
Right.
All broken in the garage. I just couldn't do it.
See, you've already told her, or you assume she's going to know when you say it here?
It sounds like he's already told her.
Okay, because I'm like, I promise you, she's not listening. They don't. Crystal, when's the last time you listened to an episode of Real Spoilers? Exactly.
See?
Yeah. The one you were on.
I didn't listen to that either.
Yeah, I didn't either. I don't listen to these. I don't even listen half the time when we're doing them. So
we know.
Yeah, people can tell. So I guess we should dig in.
We should.
At long last. So you had an article this week or a conversation you started about Lululemon and what does constitute patent infringement on leggings.
Yeah, this was interesting to me.
I mean, it's basically just really thick hosiery. What did they?
You did a couple of quotes. I'll just recap to let you gather your thoughts there. You had a couple of thoughts that like quotes that you included, and one of them was the Miami-based fashion lawyer Bogdan Anika said, if you look at all the facts together, it's kind of obvious. Peloton canceled their agreement with Lululemon, then turned around and put very similar garments on the same rack. It would be hard for some consumers to tell them apart. However, also according to Ashley Frazee, a Toronto-based fashion and branding lawyer, she said Peloton ended the co-branding agreement and then very quickly came to market with their own line. Did they just reverse engineer the product and then say, okay, we're going to freeze you out, Lululemon?
Yeah. So the interesting part was this was helpful for me because it kind of broke it into the two components, right? It's like the infringement complaint and then the unfair competition kind of leg of this thing. So I guess what I got from the article was, the infringement is, maybe or maybe not. They may or may not win that. But this article is trying to suggest that they may have, Lulu may have a point with regards to the unfair competition complaint because they're basically saying the consumer may not be able to recognize the difference between what was previously Lululemon and now is a Peloton product because they were on the same rack. So one day it's on the rack and it's Lululemon, and then the next day it's on the rack and it's just a Peloton. It's just Peloton.
Okay,
do they mean literally on the rack?
Yeah, because Peloton was selling
literally on the
Lululemon.
rack, right.
Peloton sold Lululemon athletic wear, right?
Okay, so I was making sure before I made my next point, which is I got to think about 0.001% of their sales are from racks, that most of them are online.
Oh, I get that, but I think that actually makes it worse. I think it's still the same thing, like the same rack being the online shop, because one day it was Lululemon, then you turn around the next day it was Peloton, and they look the same. And I just got to add at this point, Tom, that don't forget that I laid out the two different. So I did not know, John, that I had previously actually bought Lululemon gear.
I know this will shock you, but there were clothes she purchased that she had forgotten that she owned.
I wore them. I just didn't even realize they were Lululemon because I just bought them for the color, not Lululemon, unlike a lot of people that buy for Lululemon. But the point is, I also, while we were in Boston, went to the Peloton store and they had like a 40% off sale. So I ended up buying like the new Peloton apparel. That's the same fabric. And I didn't realize I had. So then I'm sitting there looking at them side by side. And I will say this. They looked identical. Like they have pockets in the same place on the sides. They have a pocket on the back band in the exact same place. The seaming is the same. The fabric is almost identical feeling. And the bra is exactly the same. I mean, other than the fact that one has Lululemon on it and one does not, they look identical. The fabric is slightly different, but I don't know that the average person would know that. Really, seriously.
What did I read about? Like, I didn't look at any of the garments.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy them.
But
anyway.
Shocking.
I thought I read something about one bra had extra mesh material or something. No?
If that's the case, I did not see it. I mean, just granted, I didn't like take a tape measure and look for extra fabric or anything, but I just laying them side by side, like everything construction to my eye looked the same.
So is pocket placement really like that groundbreaking?
I mean, in leggings it is, for sure.
There's a finite number of places where you can put a pocket.
But they didn't used to have pockets at all. And I think the fact that this one has, and the seams are the same. Like there's different ways you can construct a garment so that like for instance, you know, you don't get the dreaded cover your ears, kiddos, camel toe.
Right.
And so depending on where the seams are, that can make a difference. And that's just one example of how you want to be careful with the seams. And I have my limit.
You hide the camel toe by putting a pocket there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called kangaroo toe.
No.
Because you got a pouch right there. That's how that works. I'm basically high fashion. A lot of people don't know this. My middle name, Gucci.
And had they done that, there'd be no lawsuit.
Right, John.
Here's a pocket for your hoo-ha.
Well, there you go. We can solve this. Peloton, put a pocket with your hoo-ha. All good.
Done.
No, but I really don't know if that's all there is to it. I'm just saying that.
Don't put your heart rate monitor in it, though.
Jesus, Tom.
Or maybe do. I don't know.
Maybe you do.
Hey.
Okay.
You do you.
Oh, my God.
What?
Focus.
You're the one that started bringing up hoo-has.
I was
How do you expect me to focus now?
All right. I give. Over to you, John. Fix this.
I was just asking the question in the article, is this a good look, bad look? You know, that was what I'm asking my group. Like, is this a good look, bad look, or does anyone care? Is it just like humor? Like for me, it's just humor.
I don't know. It kind of seems to me like it's just a means to get money in the end.
I don't think the average consumer cares. I think this is something that Peloton and Lululemon will go round and round about. But I think at the end of the day, the average person is just like, you selling leggings? Here's my money.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, I don't think most people care. I also wonder, speaking real quick about there's been lots of sales on Peloton apparel lately. And I wonder if they're using that as a way to generate revenue quickly. You know, they drop the price, and the price is high enough where you drop it. It's still, I'm sure the markup's still.
Especially when it's all one thing now, right?
Right. They don't have to split it. So they're probably looking at it and go like, we can price this stuff like we did before. We can drop it in half, and we're probably keeping as much money as we did previously because we don't have to split it. It's like when you sell something on Groupon. If I sell a ticket on Groupon,
well, I think
I can if I do the sale through my own list, I don't have to split the money, and I can actually have a higher ticket price but keep or a lower ticket price but keep more of the money. Like I wonder if they're using that to like get quick cash influxes.
I don't know about cash influxes, but I do think that they're trying to get more product out there as quickly as possible, because there have been a lot of people that say, oh, I don't like the new fabrics. Like, to me, they don't look any different. I think that they're good, but I feel like there are people that don't agree with that. And there are people that push back and say that it's not the same quality as before, etc. And so I think they're trying to get it in front of as many people as possible to get rid of that notion. So
I got a question on it, and I think this is something that's probably asked in one of the other articles, and that is anybody buying this stuff that isn't like a Peloton fanatic?
No.
Like, the brand hasn't reached the point like where somebody's like, I don't own or use Peloton, but I want Peloton leggings. I'm not saying there's nobody out there, but
like, why?
I can't imagine that there's a significant number of people that just see Peloton as a brand name in the same way that you do Nike or Adidas.
Agreed.
People are wearing it's more like buying a Van Halen t-shirt. You're buying it because you like Van Halen.
Right.
You're not buying it because of the quality of the shirt.
Right. And so when I hear that, then I start thinking, like, I know from a court perspective, like, it probably doesn't play any, it doesn't change anything. But like, I kind of saw Lululemon in a sense, just like, another major brand like a Nike that, could be anybody buying that. Whereas from a Peloton perspective, I figured you were probably in that Peloton ecosystem with a bike or some type of a product. That's why you would see that. And thus, I don't know, does that change that kind of the credence and credibility of the case at all?
I think maybe it could, because honestly, like, the reason you could have a Peloton Adidas collaboration is because Adidas was the clothing line and Peloton was Van Halen, right?
Right.
When you buy a Van Halen shirt, you're not like, hey, is this a Hanes shirt or is this a Gildan? Like, you're just like, I'll take the Van Halen shirt.
Right.
And that's, but you will never see, I wouldn't think, a Lululemon and Adidas collaboration,
right?
Because they're like, but we already sell clothes, we don't need.
But I think the counterpoint to that is, but then they bought Mirror, and then it became a thing, right? Because now they're in direct competition with Peloton, and I think they weren't in direct competition on the clothing line, but I think in their mind, Peloton went too far and cross that line of copying what they did. So now it's on, to me, that's where they cross the line, because they have the Mirror stuff too.
It's on like Crazy Kong, which was the knockoff of Donkey Kong.
Was it really?
It was.
I was trying to figure it out.
I didn't know where we were going.
There was really a game called Crazy Kong. It would always freeze up on like the fifth screen. It was awful.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Maybe it was just a Missouri thing. But yeah, there was a game called Crazy Kong.
Donkey Kong, and then you got to play Crazy Kong?
It was like the knockoff of Donkey Kong. It looked just like it. It was probably it was probably like the Czechoslovakian version or something. But yeah, like it's a thing.
Okay.
It is a thing.
It's kind of like when you're playing Pac-Man back in the day, and then Atari came out with Pac-Man, and it was like, that ain't Pac-Man.
That's not Pac-Man. That Pac-Man was awful.
That Pac-Man was horrible.
I remember how excited you were when they're like, oh, I can play a Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. And then you get the Pac-Man home and you're just like, he didn't even, like, when you went corners, he didn't even change directions. He just always, like, when he was going up, he was still facing to the left.
He was still like that. Right.
Yeah. That was some bullshit. I felt
we sounding real old right about now.
You guys are. You are. I'm not even gonna lie.
You know that scene in A Christmas Story where he like gets his decoder ring and then he's like, it's an ad for Ovaltine.
Yeah.
That's how a generation of kids felt when they played the Atari Pac-Man.
That is exactly how I felt when I got my little Pac-Man cartridge. I was like, that ain't Pac-Man.
This is not Pac-Man.
I felt that way.
Yeah, it was bad.
I'm glad we worked through that today.
We haven't. We're still upset about it.
It's still hitting me in my heart here, Crystal.
I can tell.
It was not Pac-Man. They should be ashamed. Ashamed of what they did. They know what they did.
They know what they did.
They know. So moving along, you also had an article kind of just outlining the development of the strength space.
Yeah.
You had some interesting dates in here.
Yeah.
I just post stuff so that we can start a conversation.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're continuing that conversation. So just for people who aren't looking, we've got 2014, Peloton released the first connected fitness bike. In 2017, Nordic Track released the first electromagnetic strength device. But August of 2018, Tonal released the first electromagnetic strength device with AI.
That was good.
Amen.
Yes.
September 18th, so that same year, Mirror releases the first fitness mirror. In February of 2020, Tempo releases the first strength mirror with form correction and rep counting. Now, June 2020, Lululemon acquires Mirror. July 2020, Tonal adds computer vision, which is amazing. And then September 2020, with $2 billion in free cash, Peloton CEO John Foley said in an interview when asked about possible strength acquisitions, there's not that many awesome innovation technology companies in the fitness category. One of the reasons Peloton is doing well is there just hasn't been that much innovation or capital or software or content for that matter going into the fitness category. We will be acquisitive when it makes sense, but it's more a shallow pool of targets than you want it to be.
Yeah, I just was trying to do the outline.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Steve Ballmer, came out and he's like, an iPhone, blah.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a keyboard.
Right.
And then,
you've got a Moto Q, people. You'll be fine.
Right. I mean, remember when, BlackBerry was like the big thing and then iPhones came out and there was like the big debate. I mean, I think it's worth noting. I think that the timeline, it's worth it to ask the question. It's worth it to talk through it because as we've been talking about, Peloton is an amazing company. They have the bike, which was an amazing, innovative product.
Yeah.
But what comes next? What are they doing? What's going to happen with the guide? What's going to happen with all the new things like the boxing? We'll get to more of the boxing later in the episode. But like, how does that play into the guide? How does that play into the AI? What's going to happen with the gaming? Right. So I hear this as you asking like, Peloton needs to be careful. It's like a history lesson, but it's also like we can see it happening in real time too. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, if you kind of look at that timeline, it makes you wonder. I mean, maybe those things end up not being anything all that transformational. But it makes you wonder if like the machine learning and the AI and with the computer vision and all, will that turn out to be a transformational thing? And then with all that stuff in the timeline, does that make that statement that John Foley made in whatever it was, June or whatever of 2020, sound a little kind of misguided or kind of at a different step with innovation? Does it make it sound that way? So that was the question I was posing. Right?
Yeah. And I guess as I'm sure you noted in there that, time will tell. Only time will tell how this will all, kind of pan out. But it is an interesting conversation point. So I thought it was worth sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, you had some interesting thoughts about just treadmills and their future in the Peloton pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is okay. So I was checking out Money DJ, which is a Taiwanese kind of site, and since they're local to Rexon, which is one of Peloton's manufacturers, they tend to report on things that are going on with Rexon. So they just made a statement about the fact, just something we already I think knew, is that they say the customer, which they're referring to Peloton, doesn't have a need for as much manufacturing for tread as, of course, for bike. Like, that's not all, that's not news. Like, we knew that. But it made me think, it's like, okay, we've heard Peloton talk about the fact that they know running is a space they want to get into. There's a lot of runners, more than there are bikers. And so if they get into this space, they should be able to kind of expand. If that's the case, and we've seen how bike kind of just exploded. Took some time, but it kind of exploded. And there's like a magic to the bike. I think, most Peloton riders would say there's some type of magic to that makes you want to get back on, get into I always thought it was just the content. But if the tread isn't kind of taking off like the bike did, is that just because it's going to take time? Is it because there's something about that magic that's very specific to a bike and this doesn't happen with a tread? Is it because people will just use digital and they can use any treadmill and that's why it's not the same as the bike? So I was just kind of posing a bunch of questions about that fact that, bike is, highly sought after.
But also people who have purchased a treadmill, they probably don't need to buy a treadmill soon. There's a lot. Right. There's just if you've bought an exercise bike in the past, there are exceptions to this. I'm just making a general statement. You probably did not buy the top of the line expensive bike until you came to Peloton. But with a treadmill, you might have already bought a more, not necessarily Woodway expensive top of the line, but you might have invested $2,000 into a treadmill in the past. You're going to wait till that bad boy's dead. You're not going to be purchasing another one nearly as quickly as you would other fitness equipment. I think that's part of it.
I think there's another aspect, which is that spinning already existed and had solidified its place in the world of fitness. And I think treadmills, I think there's a lot of people that don't see the need for assistance. They're like, I get on and I run. Like, what do I need you for? So while the content is as good, I think there's a lot of people that feel like a lot of avid runners who are like, nah, I'm good. Like, I don't need your help. And so where spin already had been firmly established of like, no, you need the help and it's fun and there's good instruction. I think a lot of runners are just like, I don't need you. So why would I pay all this extra money when I can just hop on the tread and do it myself? And I think that's the obstacle that they're going to have.
One more thought on that is that I think there's a lot of people in the Peloton community that are past the age of 40. And there's always been a stigma of like, if you're 40, you probably shouldn't start running. Like that's not a great time to start running. That's usually around the time people end their running careers or at least change how they interact with running. And so not that they have to, not that they should. I'm just saying that tends to happen.
It can be rough on your joints.
Exactly. Yeah. It can be rough on your joints. So I think that's another thing. You have this really expensive item. And then you have the average person buying expensive items being a person who's 40 plus. And so like you don't necessarily want to invest all this money in something you're not even sure how often you're going to use. Like, can my joints handle it? Do I only need to stick to walking? I don't know what I can do, what I can't do. So I think there's a lot of things going into that.
I agree. I think you're probably both right.
But which one of us is more right? Pick.
I'm not answering that on this. I'm not getting in trouble. I learned this one.
We know it's me. Go on.
Remember, I told you at the beginning of this, I didn't call Erica from that. I learned some things. But I was expecting like I've never been able to really come to a conclusion on what that magic is in the bike. Again, I always kind of thought it's something with the content, but there's something there that's magical. And I just kind of thought that just kind of rolls into the tread, right? And then everybody's just going to...
I mean, to me, it does because I do get that same... In fact, I think I get more out of the tread than I do the bike because I've really learned to enjoy running. But the content is magical to me. It's in the same way that the bike is. But I also think that not everybody likes to listen to the instructors. Like Tom said, I like learning to run because it has changed how I run. It's changed my form. Not everybody wants that,
Or they think or more importantly, they think they don't need it.
Yeah. But I think it's also important to remember that Peloton's really only been pushing the tread for like 3 months. Like they really haven't really been pushing sales on the tread.
It's early.
It is.
It's still young. It's still early. Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think there's definitely room for it to take off. They need to be focused on it in a way that they don't entirely seem to be at the moment.
I don't know that they'll ever be focused again. There's just too many things that they do now. There's too many disciplines.
Yeah. There's a lot. Yeah. Well, thank you, John, for joining us. Until next week, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook in my page or group, Run, Lift, and Live. They can find me on Instagram, Run, Lift, and Live. They can find me on the tickety-tock, Run, Lift, and Live. Or they can find me at runliftandlive.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Talk to you guys later.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
So Tonal has just announced that they have now partnered with Amazon Music. So there's a new way to listen to music on your Tonal.
Right. So that means you have Apple Music, Amazon Music, and their radio stations that are already built in. So cool. The Tonal helps you train smarter so you can get stronger faster. It's like having an entire gym and personal trainer in your home.
It's the smart gym that knows your limits and then pushes them higher. Their patented digital weight system senses your strength and adjusts the weight automatically in real time so you can get the most out of every workout. And it doesn't just a little tiny bit. You don't even realize that you're lifting more until suddenly you're so jacked you're buying new clothes.
Which literally happened to you. Also, I love getting to know the instructors live. It's fun to hear their personal stories, and I love getting a shout out.
No matter your experience level, Tonal has thousands of personalized workouts from strength training to HIIT, yoga, boot camp, bar, and more. And they help you unlock your strongest self.
Try Tonal, the smartest home gym, for 30 days in your home. Tonal is so confident you'll love it. They offer a full money-back guarantee.
You can now get Tonal from $63 per month and 0% interest over 48 months. Visit www.tonal.com, and for a limited time, get $100 off when you use promo code THECLIPOUT at checkout.
That's www.tonal.com, promo code THECLIPOUT.
Tonal, be your strongest.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube is Dr. Jen Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. You may know her from VH1's Couples Therapy with Dr. Jen or VH1's Family Therapy with Dr. Jen, her long-running radio show, The Dr. Jen Show. She's written 4 best-selling books, including Relationship Fix, Dr. Jen's 6-Step Guide to Improving Communication, Connection, and Intimacy. It's Dr. Jen. Hello.
Hi.
Hey. I couldn't get out of my bike. So here I am.
She's still clipped in.
Clipped in on the clip out.
Well, that's perfect. You're in the right place.
If this is how you do it, you're going to do your segments on the bike. It's like, now I want to start a podcast about unicycling.
I don't know that my balance is that good. It's pretty good, but not quite that good.
Well, I wouldn't recommend clipping into that. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
I guess technically that does only have one wheel.
I know it only has one wheel, but it's not balanced on that.
I'm just saying technically it is a unicycle.
I know. Okay.
Okay, question.
Okay, quickly, I will get away from this or we'll be down this rabbit hole forever. But Paul Olich has a question for you. He says that he struggles with getting on the bike on a regular basis. How does he motivate himself for the first minute of a workout over the long term? He goes in streaks.
Yeah. A few things. One is I would recommend setting up a reward for yourself.
Ooh.
That whatever it is, let's say if your goal is to do however many days in a row, or you create your plan and you say, okay, I want to make sure that I ride, let's say 3 times a week for a month. At the end of the month, if you have done your 12 times, that you let yourself get like some Peloton apparel. Ooh. Or like something that is exercise related that will make exercise even more enjoyable. So that's one thing. Another thing is to take a live class, because I don't know about you guys, but once I check that box of I'm in. My house could be on fire and I'm going to clip in and I'm going to show up because I've checked that box. Another thing is if you have any other friends in the Peloton community, even if you've never met them, to make a plan to ride together.
Definitely.
And to say like, hey, like I'll meet you on the bike. I'll look for you on the leaderboard, or like, hey, text when you're on your bike. Another thing is in general, in the bigger picture, is to have a workout partner. And I remember in the late 90s, I read a study about people who ran marathons. And they found that people who ran with friends were significantly more likely to complete the marathon. And so at the time, it had been a life goal of mine to one day run a marathon. I was like, I don't care if I crawl, I don't care if I walk, I want to complete a marathon. And so I went out to like 20 friends. And this is before the internet. So like I actually called people and talked to them on the phone like we did in the old days. And I ended up getting, I think it was like 10 people started, 10 people committed. And by the time the marathon came, there was one person left.
Oh, but wow.
We had trained the entire year together, and we'd gotten very close. We became really, really good friends. We learned so much about each other. We had been through so much, running in the cold, the rain, the dark, all that sort of stuff. But the point is that camaraderie and that accountability can really make a very big difference. The other thing is to look at how you talk to yourself. When I don't want to get on the bike, the thing I always tell myself is I think of exercise as medicine for longevity. And as we've talked about, one of my goals is to live a really long time. That's something that really motivates me to train. And so sometimes what I will say to myself if I don't feel like getting on is just take your medicine. Just get on the bike. And I think of it as my medicine for living a long life. So that's kind of another way. And then the other thing is most of us find that once we get on, we're committed. And that just tolerating that it's hard to get on the bike, that it's hard to start, and saying like, that's okay. Like, it's okay that it's hard to get on the bike. It's okay that it's hard to start, but I can do this, and I've done it. I've had 100 times where it's been hard to start, and then somehow I do it. And that's really awesome. And that's a really cool thing about me. So really use it to kind of give yourself respect that you are so awesome that even when you don't feel like doing it, you get on the bike and you do it. So I think that those are kind of some of the key elements that can kind of help you get past this.
I think those are all good. And I would just add, if you start a class and it's just not hitting, don't get off the bike, try a different class, because sometimes it's just not you didn't find the right match.
It's okay to pivot.
It is okay to pivot.
Yeah. And I do think that doing class searches by music, by instructor, by whatever it is that turns you on, it can really help. And also, on days where you're struggling more, you know what? Do a search for the easiest class.
Yes.
Like do it for the highest rated class. Do a search based on something specific that you really like. You know, maybe you're just really into Dennis Morton's reset classes. So like take those, but really try to cater to where you are mentally and emotionally. I tend to find that when I take the time to really pick the class thoughtfully, I always end up in the class that provides me with exactly the message and exactly the workout that I really needed.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of that. Until next time, where can people find you?
You can find me on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, at Dr. Jen Mann, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Mann. And I post all of my Peloton workouts on Insta Stories, so you can check them out every day there. And you can also find me on InStyle magazine. I have a weekly sex and relationship column called Hump Day with Dr. Jen.
Instructors in the news.
Well, welcome to the Peloton family, Logan Aldridge.
Yeah, and he is the first adaptive training specialist. So he is going to at first be a consultant, and my understanding is that at some point in a later date, he is going to be a Peloton instructor as well.
And his name, he sounds like he's a character in a John Grisham novel.
See, I thought he sounded like a superhero. Logan Aldridge.
Now, superheroes, they have lots of alliteration. It's Wally West, Clark Kent.
True. That's
Not
true.
always. I mean, you get Bruce Wayne, but still.
Well, it's either way. It's very cool. I love seeing the adaptive athletes and seeing all the different ways that they literally adapt to be able to do the workouts that work for them. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then he already had a couple articles out there. Shape magazine, not Michelle K. Don't know what that's about.
I don't know. We're worried about you, Michelle.
Yeah. But they had an interesting article just about Logan and his background, as did Men's Health.
Yeah. And they both, just to summarize, they both talked about that he is the first adaptive instructor over at Peloton. And Logan has been very involved in the CrossFit game. So for those of you who are interested in CrossFit, I think this could be a really good fit with Peloton.
Peloton in the news.
Peloton has finally revealed boxing. I guess you could say it's Bout Time.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. So that's interesting how they introduced this one. Because this time around, they have a 2-week program. So if you want to take the classes within the boxing, like the new type of class,
right,
you can only get it if you join the program. And the way that the programs work is that you take one class at a time. So you take a class and then it unlocks the next class.
Oh, okay.
You can't just you can skip one class, but you can't just skip all the way to the end.
Gotcha.
You have to skip one class at a time, and you can only do 1 week at a time. So this is going to be a 2-week program. It's called Get Hooked Peloton Boxing Program, and you can get it on the app, the bike, or the tread. It's all shadow boxing, and I hear for now that it's shadow boxing, and that it probably will have something to do with that guide, which we had talked about months and months and months ago when we first talked about the guide coming out. And also, I think that you can expect to see more classes. This is just the first set. And so if you want to see more, take these.
Right.
I skipped the very first class because it was literally all the basics, and I got that. I mean, I've been doing fight camp for a long time.
Right.
Also, I used my bag because I don't like to punch air.
Because you got one.
Yeah. But I took Rad's class, and it was starting to do combos. And the first 10 minutes are really good about breaking down each of the different moves that you're going to be doing into small combos. And then the last 11 minutes is really intense, which is exactly how it should be. It was very, very good instruction. So I think that if people are interested in learning about boxing and learning about the moves used in a boxing gym, Peloton does have you covered. Right now, the instructors that are teaching are Rad Lopez, Selena Samuela, and of course, Kendall Toole. So that's just a start. I believe more instructors will be added along the way, and of course, more classes coming.
And then self.com had an article about 5 things to know before you take the new Peloton boxing classes.
Yeah, and this article was highlighted by Selena, and she talks about the fact that even if you already know the basics, you should still go through the first week of classes because
Crystal.
I know. I was like, oops, already skipped that first one, Selena. But really, it talks about how it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It's never bad to go back and do basics, and they want people to be safe. They want people to be safe as they try this. So please do follow that. Something that was very interesting, be prepared to focus. So a lot of times when you're taking a cycling class, your mind kind of wanders. I don't do that so much with running. I really listen to what the instructor is saying when I run, but I know a lot of people do. It's their meditative time. They come up with a lot of really great ideas on the bike as well.
Yeah.
And this is not that. So boxing is you need to be really in the zone. So I thought that was very good advice. And also dress in supportive, very important, ladies, yet comfortable exercise gear. Yes, that's true. And your hair will, if you wear gloves at all and you actually punch something, you will have static. So be prepared for that.
And not a concern I have for 2 reasons.
Also, they suggest embracing the challenge to hone your confidence. Absolutely. It can be intimidating if you think that you're going to get hit. You're not going to get hit with shadow boxing. It's okay.
Yeah. And if you do, it's by a shadow.
Right. So you're good. You're
even
good.
I can beat up a shadow.
Totally. But they also suggest stacking the boxing with other workouts. And all of these workouts thus far are 20 minutes for the first week and then 30 minutes for the second. So I definitely think stacking is a good idea. 30 minutes can be a lot, but the first week, especially when you're learning and you're going pretty slow the first 10 minutes, you definitely you need to add more to that workout if it's a day that's not a rest day for
a
you.
light day,
Yeah. Don't think you're going to go in and get your whole workout done in 20 minutes with that first week.
Can you do shadow boxing on a light day? Because the light would drown out the shadow.
I can't believe you did that with straight face.
I don't know why you can't believe that.
I didn't see it coming. I should have.
Every once in a while, I can still sneak one by you.
Yeah.
Peloton this week was commemorating International Day with Disabilities.
Yeah, International Day of Persons with Disabilities.
There we go. I have the Zoom screen over the part with the words.
Yeah, so you were kind of guessing.
I was guessing. I was like,
what something here does not belong.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is the first time that they've celebrated it, and it was, really cool because they have a blog that you could learn about the future of accessible fitness and hear real stories from the Peloton community at the link in the bio, which is still out there. So definitely check that out. Fascinating, great stories out there.
And also Peloton posted something from a member by the name of Dustin F. Talking all about hearing accessibility features on the Bike Plus.
Yeah, and I thought that this was helpful for people. It's a good video. It actually has good personality. Sometimes these videos that people do in the stores, so dry.
Yeah.
This one's good. Has really good personality. So I recommend that people check it out, especially because a lot of us know people that have, they have a hearing. They have different levels of hearing. So to be able to see all of the accessibility features, what they can do, what they can't do in one place is super helpful.
So marketing VP, big shot, head honcho. She's got an official title. I think that's it.
Super VP. That's what we're going to call her.
Okay. She sat down with Salesforce and their YouTube channel.
Her name is Dara.
Dara. Sorry. I forgot I didn't say her name
yet.
I was so focused on getting her job title correct.
I know.
I forgot to say her name. So my apologies, Super VP Marketing Chief Important Person.
Yes. Well, she sat down to talk about how Peloton is changing fitness by building community. And there's been a lot of conversation about this since Dara has started. And I think that she has been very focused on that. And I think they're doing a good job at telling that story.
Absolutely. And so the link to that video will be in this week's newsletter. If you want to check that out, go to theclipout.com and sign up for our newsletter there.
And watch the whole thing.
The Clip Out.
So joining us again via the magic of YouTube, it's Angelo from MetPro.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
So we don't have a question this week. It's really more of a confession. So we did our Thanksgiving trip, and I did not MetPro it at all.
I mean, it wasn't great. We really had good intentions. We had intentions to only have one bad meal a day.
And that bad meal was 7.5 hours long.
And then and our intention was also that we would have we would exercise every day. And then we got to the hotel, and they didn't even have like a microwave. They didn't even have vending machines at this hotel. Like there was nothing at this hotel.
So we were shopping at the CVS.
We went to the CVS every day, and that was our breakfast, lunch, and dinner when we weren't eating out at a restaurant.
Okay. We can work with this.
Okay. Well, it was not our finest moment.
It was not. We went up to...
You either what is it? You win or you learn. One we're gonna take behind what's behind door number 2, folks. So and occasionally you have one of those trips where nothing goes as planned. You don't end up eating at the restaurant you expect you're going to be at. You don't end up with the people you expect you're going to be at, and the hotel's different from what you had planned. So I get it. I totally get it.
Phew.
It's never the damage is not done in one meal. So I have people ask me this all the time. Like, they just signed up. I'm ready to go. Like, but Angelo, I have this family or this night with the guys or the night out with the girls coming up in 3 weeks, and I'm really nervous about it. It's like, what? And I interrupt them. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. But it's important because I'm trying to make a point.
Right.
One meal doesn't matter. One meal does not matter. It's the 48 meals between now and then that I want to bat 85% on. See, if we can do that, then we're good. Then we're golden. The problem is, and here's the ironic part, and we have the data and the stats to back this up. Most people, when they have a weekend away, most people actually run into problems the week after. Because what happens, they take a long weekend and maybe they have a bad meal or two, but then they get back and they're short on time because the last week was a 3-day week and now they have deadlines, they have extra work. So now it's days 2, day 3 where leftovers are happening, or like what happened to you guys hitting the CVS for breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's where the trouble happens. So quick tips for next time. You're never going to get it perfect. The idea is next time it happens, we just shave 1% or 2% off. It's a little better each time. So the number one thing is you get right back on track when you get home and in routine. Tom, that's exactly what you did. And how many pounds back down are you already?
I lost within the first within the first 3 days, I lost 8 or 9 pounds.
Right.
Because normally that would not be good.
Right.
I mean, some people freak out when we talk about weight loss. They're like, don't ever talk about weight loss. And I'm just like, well, it's
Pollyanna. It's basically water weight at this point.
Yeah,
so.
but I had kind of gone on a mini binge. And so I corrected and it came off super fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the key, getting right back into routine. And then it ends up serving as this mini little up adjust. No, it wasn't desirable, but what happens is at least if you get back on track, your metabolic rate is revved up, you get right back on track. It's not going to do permanent damage. The permanent damage happens when now all your glycogen stores are replenished. So you're full. In other words, you have all the sugar stored inside muscles, banked for later, and then you don't get back on track. There's nowhere for the excess to go. This
and you
is a little
pour
bit
more
of an
on top of it.
It goes on top of it, right? We call that body fat. Top of the muscle. So that's where it's just getting back on track is the number one thing. So now let's talk about a little bit of nuance. So if you are stuck with having to go to a grocery store for food, ideally look for a grocery store that has a deli section. You can even, if you think ahead and bring just a can opener with you, you can go to literally any grocery store, and worst case scenario, you could get some healthy canned food in a pinch. Problem with that is usually doesn't taste good.
Right.
Deli counter food tastes good and you can at least get close. And that's what I try and get my traveling clients used to is you're gonna hit a pinch where you need fast food. Don't do a drive-through, do a walk-in grocery store to the deli counter. You'll end up spending about the same, but you can go, I want, a half a pound of that vegetable medley, half a pound of this, turkey breast, et cetera, et cetera. You're golden. The last thing is, if you can, and this is something that our coaches do, of course, if you know what hotel you're staying at, you can actually check ahead. Now, it doesn't sound like this particular hotel was one that had a room service menu, but a lot of people just assume room service, there's nothing healthy on that. Usually there's 1 or 2 items. You can always get a salad. The key is if you think ahead and you plan, you either pick up or you have with you a good salad dressing. The other option is you can order something like a veggie omelet, and you're not going to get yourself into too much trouble. And sometimes that's what I tell clients to do when I know they're going to go out to dinner at a restaurant where they're not going to have a lot of great options. I tell them just eat light, order yourself a salad for dinner. When you get back to the hotel, get room service to drop off a veggie omelet. It's very filling. It's mostly protein. Works really good. Yeah,
the problem we ran into with room service at this particular place is it was all super fancy, and so there was it was oh, you can get an omelet with an ostrich egg or something. I don't know, it was something weird like that, and I'm just like 80% of what was in the omelet I couldn't even pronounce. Yeah. Not because it was normally that's because it's chemicals. This was because it was so fancy.
Yeah.
And I'm just I'm not going to eat any of this.
Yeah.
And why? Just bring me an egg, man. Don't make it weird.
If it had just been me, Angelo, would have been fine. It would have been fine.
Yeah. You travel with that weirdo,
right? And I'm like,
we end up at CVS at 2 a.m. buying Pop-Tarts.
So big picture, here's the deal. Even when you have blowout weekends, the idea is you shouldn't be gaining 10 pounds. And so the reason that's going to happen is Tom, we're right mid what we call up adjust or metabolic revving cycle. So your body's not super sensitive, but you're kind of in that halfway spot. If we had you at the very tippy top of your up adjust cycle, ideally a weekend like this happens, you pick up a couple pounds, 2.5 pounds, and it's gone within 48 hours. But the nice thing is that your metabolic rate, we're tracking that. So we knew that when you got back, it's not, oh no, roll of the dice, what's going to happen? No, we knew it's going to come right back down because we're tracking your metabolic rate and your responsiveness. So I knew it was going to come right back down.
And I will say the way I did things prior to MetPro, when I was doing it on my own, if I gained 10 pounds, I'd be looking at a month.
Yeah, that's true.
To get that back off. So I still have that moment of like, oh no, what have I done?
So did Angelo.
Yes.
No, Tom, what have you done?
Yes.
Life happens. The key is routine. And that's why, I told you guys this story again. I told it today I was doing another interview, and, I have two clients. Client A is, I didn't have anything ready to go. I didn't have anything planned, but I stopped by the store. I managed to make good choices, and I eked through the day without eating any junk food. Person B says, I had my breakfast because I shopped in advance. I had my snack and my lunch ready to go, and I took it with me. But on the way home, I stopped at Grandma's house and I caved because she was making apple pie. I want you to be person B, because person B has the foundation in place for leverage. I can do something with that. If you have a routine that we can anchor to, now I can build on that. If you have those snacks prepped, if you have some lunch ready to go, if you have a routine in place that's healthy for you, we have the tools to control your metabolism versus letting it control us. So anyhow.
Awesome. Well, if people would like this sort of advice crafted personally for them, where can they find you?
They can go to metpro.co/TCO.
Awesome. Thank you.
Instructors in the news.
Daniel McKenna is back.
Woo! He's back on the tread. He's a funny guy. I missed him while he was gone.
You like your funny Irish guys.
I do. I do. It's true.
Not built like that, but I bet I'm funnier.
Well, I think you're getting closer to being built like that every day.
I was afraid you were saying I was getting closer to being funnier. I was going to be upset.
No, you're always funnier, honey.
Phew.
And I haven't met Daniel, so I don't know how smart he is, but you are one of the smartest people I have ever met in my life. So smart and funny.
You need to meet more people.
Well, we are glad that Daniel is back. I am glad Daniel's back. Welcome back, Daniel.
The manual.com talked to Kristin McGee about mindfulness.
Yeah. And so basically it's a how to practice mindfulness. And according to the expert is Kristin.
There you go.
And so this goes through like a list of things that you can do to be more mindful. And I don't know about you, but December can be a challenge to be mindful.
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
Yeah. And she's on a bit of a mindfulness press tour because she also talked to the Long Island Herald about the same thing.
Oh, and this one is 4 ways to kickstart a wellness routine. And so I believe that she's also talking about mindfulness.
Yes,
and
number 1 on that list, mindfulness.
Nice. Very good. I like seeing when the instructors get to, yoga doesn't get a lot of love from a publicity standpoint.
Sure.
So I love seeing that some of our instructors are getting some love.
Past guest update.
So you might remember we spoke with Andolyn Medina a month or so ago, and she was talking about her quest to be Miss America, to vanquish all the other states. And if you've been wondering what's up with that, well, it's been revealed when you will be able to watch that if you are so inclined.
December 16th at 8 p.m. on the Peacock channel. Is that like a streaming platform now?
Yes, that's the new streaming platform from NBC. And so that's like Peacock, right? The NBC Peacock.
That makes sense.
And so, so we were going to be getting that anyway because December 16th is when MacGruber hits. And Will Forte is one of my favorites, and MacGruber is, I think, one of the most underrated comedies of the last decade.
But we have to watch Miss America for Andolyn, for Andy.
Sure, we'll watch her part, and then we're watching MacGruber for some good old-fashioned throat rips.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to join us to have a little watch party, you know.
If there are any other MacGruber fans out there, just shoot me a message.
I was thinking we could do both.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
we could do both.
Okay.
December 16th, that's what we are doing.
And if you haven't watched The Last Man on Earth with Will Forte.
Oh, so good.
It was a show on Fox. It's on I think it's on Netflix. Oh my God, it is so good.
So good.
Peloton artist collaboration.
We have a new artist collaboration, and it is with Queen.
Yes, the band.
The band. Not I don't know that I'm all about senior citizens exercising, but I think Peloton might be a little tense for the Queen of England.
Well, I don't know that she rocks out.
She's 140 years old.
I don't think that's her age.
So I have to call.
She's very dignified, though.
She is. She would ride her bike side saddle.
She might.
I have to call out the copywriters here, though.
Okay, please do.
No one knows who invented the stadium anthem. It was the Beatles.
Yeah, so
it's the Beatles. In fact, I can.
Well, this is probably like an 18-year-old writing this copy. They don't know.
It was the Beatles, and I can tell you when. It was August 15th, 1965. It was their first show at Shea Stadium. That's when Stadium Rock was born.
That's true.
It's just a fact. So this is what happens when you have millennials write about classic rock.
It's not just millennials. It's just young people who don't know any better. Don't at me about millennials. At Tom.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear it.
I won't be able to find you on the Twitter machine. So you can at me all you want.
Well, there's some really fun classes that started this week. We've got Kendall, Ben Aldis, Sam Yo, Ross Rayburn, Jermaine Johnson, and oh gosh, I'm totally blanking on the German instructor because I always see his Instagram name, Hopstedt Trainer, and I can't remember his actual name.
I always do that with Daniel
Jaeger. Duh.
Daniel McKenna. I had to look it up. I had to
Google Irish Yank.
Irish Yank Peloton. That's it.
Also, they haven't done Peloton apparel for a while with the artist collaboration, so they went ahead and released a Peloton and Queen apparel collection.
Yeah, I gotta think that there's a finite number of men that want to wear a shirt that says Peloton Queen.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, hey, more power to you if you do.
No, I get it.
I'm just thinking that
I understand what you're saying.
That might not read the same way it's intended to a lot of people.
Yeah, I get that.
But I also know there will be some people who positively love being called a Peloton Queen.
Hell yeah, there's that too. I didn't buy anything from that.
In case you missed it.
So the sweeper says, in case you missed it, but I guess we should probably call it blink and you missed it. And that would be, what's her name?
Marina Angela.
There we go. Marina Angela and her time with Peloton.
Yeah, she wasn't here very long, but she posted this week, so it was last Saturday, I don't know, 6 days ago, Thursday, that her last class at Peloton would be on Saturday. So since we last recorded, her last class has occurred. And so a lot of people really didn't even know that she was here and they didn't know who she was. But I mean, that's fair because there's been so many instructors that have been rolled out. And she specifically was teaching to the German audience.
Right.
So a lot of her classes were German. And if they didn't have English subtitles, people kind of missed it. And it was for the Tread, which has a smaller audience anyway.
So it just keeps narrowing and narrowing the potential people that could have interacted with her.
It does, yeah. So so she has moved on.
And she commented on her moving on.
She did. And I'm not sure that this was the most
delicate,
professional
okay
way to do this. So she posted on a group called Trail and Ultra Runner, and she said, "Team, I am on a running sabbatical after a very shitty corporate job experience and need some major inspiration for next year." Then she goes on to talk about the inspiration she needs to run 12 ultras in 2022. Oof.
Yeah, that's okay then.
Yeah, you can tell her age. Her age is showing here. Her youth is showing here. That was not a good thing.
Yeah, some things are maybe better to just use your inside voice.
Yeah. Don't post in a group on Facebook. People screenshot that shit.
They do. And then also in case you missed it segment, there's an advice column in the Boston Globe. And thanks to our trip to Boston, we keep getting served Boston articles and works for us. It says he never lets her win their Peloton competitions. Should he?
Yeah, and that's the title. If you go in to read the actual question, it goes into a bit more about like specifics that she uses as examples. Is like he'll brag about his Ally Love output for a 60-minute ride, or you know how many calories he burns. So it's like she says that he won't let her win, but then on the other hand, she's using non-winning examples. Like those aren't things you can win.
It sounds like he's kind of one-upping her, that she'll be like, oh, I got an output of 48. I don't know what output numbers are. And he's like, I got 57.
And that very well may be. I was going to go back and read Dr. Jen's advice on this because she weighed in and I thought it was perfect per usual. She said, I want to read the whole thing here. Mrs. Peterson needs to let her husband know that his playful teasing is taking the fun out of her rides. They need to have a conversation where they ask each other, what is the best way for me to support you with your workout plan? If he needs someone to be competitive with, he can find someone on the leaderboard, social media, a Peloton chat group, or a friend. This does not tend to work well for a lot of husbands and wives. Amen, Dr. Jen.
Yes.
Amen. Yeah, lots of likes on that. Everyone agreed with Dr. Jen.
She's really good at this giving advice thing.
I know. She should really think about it as a career. Yeah, I thought that was a fun little talking point.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
Joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Rosalyn Arntzen. How's it going?
It's going great. This is super exciting and great to be doing this with you guys.
Well, we're excited too. Now, tell us, Roz, because you go all over the place, back and forth. Where are you right now?
Right now, in St. Martin, the beautiful half Dutch, half French island in the Caribbean.
Okay. And you're on the Dutch side?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay. And she explained to me that you spell it differently depending on which side you're on. So
correct. So it's either Sint Martin or Saint Martin, depending on where you are.
I had a friend on Facebook, like a girl I hardly ever talked to. I say girl because we went to high school together, so she's still a girl in my head. And she posted that she was there, but it was spelt differently. And I was like, well, where the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then I went down a rabbit hole of like the history of St. Martin, and I'm just like, I guess it's the same place. I never really figured it out, so I'm glad you were able to clear it up.
I know. It's the first time I had heard that. So I was like, oh, that explains so much.
And you know, the weird thing is it's a tiny little island, and it is tiny. Like it would take you probably an hour to drive around it.
Yeah.
It's two completely separate countries. So when COVID occurred, border went up.
No
didn't
way.
cross to the French side, you know? And then you add to it, it's got like 400 plus restaurants on this tiny little island, you know?
Wow.
And then they were probably jonesing for business because I'm assuming it's a tourist destination. That's why there's all the restaurants, right?
You know, St. Martin has recovered really well, but it had Irma first. And then just as it was getting out of Irma, which took them about 18 months to really rebuild, along comes COVID. And of course, most of the locals, that's their industry. So you know, they've done a decent job, but it's been hard. Definitely hard.
I bet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've listened to these, so you know what the first question is.
I do.
How did you find Peloton and when?
So I have been, I'm not an original, as they call it, or an OG, but 2017 was the start of my Peloton journey. And as we'll talk about, you know, through this whole thing we're doing now, which I said very badly, as we're talking, you'll see that there was a lot more to this journey than was just finding Peloton. I went out to lunch with a friend. You know, I worked for Microsoft for many years, still very involved with them since I left. She was coming back off maternity leave and mentioned that she'd discovered this thing called Peloton. And she said, you like cycling, spinning, don't you? And have you heard of it? And I went, no, actually haven't. And she said, I think they've just opened a store in Bellevue Square, which is the east side Seattle. And I thought, why don't I go along there and give it a try? Fell in love, like tried this bike, came home to my husband all enthusiastic and said, I'm about to buy this bike. He said, so where does that go with the treadmill and the other bike and the elliptical that you never use downstairs? Mm-hmm. And I went, well, this one's different. And
you were like, we can make room for this one because I'm going to take those other ones and shove them up your ass.
Tom, I had a better answer than that. I was going to put it in the bedroom. To which he said, so it's going to become a clothes horse ride. And I was like, no, it won't. And in fact, I think this became a little bit of the challenge as we went along. He would put clothes on it and it was my job to get them off. He said, if I don't see that written for like a week or more, on go the clothes. So, you'll hear a theme through what I'm talking about. You've got to find whatever your motivation is, and it can be something really silly, and it can be something that you really have a goal. And for me, that first one was he was not going to leave the clothes on the Peloton bike.
Yes, proving someone wrong is a hell of a motivator.
It really is. Yeah. Wow, I don't know that I've ever heard that before. So he proactively put clothes on the bike
as
just
a test.
Oh my God, that's a little diabolical.
Trying to dig it.
Of course,
he's very supportive, but diabolical could come into it at times.
It's a thin line. It's a very thin line.
Again, as we'll talk about, I've lost a lot of weight, and it's something that started along that way. I used to try and get to the gym, but cycling classes for me were 5:30 a.m. I'd have to leave. I usually worked till 1 or 2 a.m. I run a small business, so that's hard. And the next one was at 9:30. Well, I've got to be at work, so I'd be lucky if I'd get there once a week. Had a friend who taught a local spinning class, so that was somewhat motivational, but more often than not, I would text her and say, I'm too tired. I'm going to sleep in. It's Saturday. So, you're not ever going to get fit or lose weight or anything going to the gym once every 3 weeks.
No.
And for whatever reason, the stuff downstairs didn't motivate me. It's like we tried,
because
but
it's boring.
Yeah. And funny you say that, Crystal, because that was my thing with strength training as well. Strength was so tedious. I would book with a trainer. I'd be literally watching that clock. Oh God, it's only 2 more minutes with them. As you probably know, I've drunk the Kool-Aid. I have Tonal. I have Peloton. And it was like Tonal changed all that. It was, it's engaging and fun, and strength was never that for me. So, again, you've got to find your motivation. So, my treadmill and my elliptical, and I remember one year I made a New Year's resolution that lasted about 2 weeks probably. I won't watch television until I've done a workout.
Oh, that's a good one though. It's a good one.
Didn't work.
No. It's too easy to let ourselves off the hook because life is real and it just keeps throwing crap at you. And sometimes it's just exhausting.
Tell me about it. And, I've run a business that, look, I run a consulting firm. We do, technology for small businesses. We also do some work for some larger corporations. And it's now 14 years. 14 years I've been running this business. But there are times I didn't know we'd make it till next month.
Wow. Yeah.
As I remember explaining once to an employee of mine, the veneer is very thin in a small business. These huge corporations, you can maybe not work for 6 months and they don't even notice.
Yeah.
But when you're running a small business and someone's not pulling their weight, it's like you can go from profitable to non-profitable so quickly. And if you're running that, you're the one in charge. You're the one at top. So for me, it meant lack of sleep and work. And I remember one of the Peloton quizzes they came up with, they said, describe something. And I said, I was a former workaholic couch potato. And it was pretty true because I'd get back from the office, I'd sit on the couch, I'd watch television. By the way, I watch a lot less television these days. And I'd be working with my laptop on my lap. And that was my day, until I fell into bed,
Oh, I remember those days. I had a job like that. It was like 70 to 80 hours a week, and it's insane.
Yeah. And being a business owner is rough. Both my parents own small businesses, so I watched it growing up.
The thing you learn is you can fit it in. You can fit in. You don't have to work all those hours, and you can still get stuff done, because I'm probably less involved hours-wise. Company's doing great. I'm a lot saner for my team, and I'm still getting it done. Yeah. So, it's priorities. And, I think you could work 24 hours a day and you still wouldn't get it all done.
Right. Right. There's always something else on the list to get done. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So you mentioned that that your Peloton was part of a larger journey for you, that it was it, and I know you had a weight loss journey. So when did that start? Where are we at in the timeline?
So I always struggled with my weight, and I think there's a reason that occurred. So my mother was ill when I was little. She got sick when I was about 2. And so her idea of recreation was read a book, watch a movie. Never really made exercise part of my life. So, and my dad wasn't around. They split up when I was young. And so, activity just wasn't something that became DNA for me. And I had moments and blips, but nothing really sustained. So I remember, at university, I used to go to the gyms, etc. Lost a bit of weight, put it back on. But it was this constant, as anyone will tell you in a weight loss journey, you lose it, you put more on. You lose it, you put more on. And, again, attempt at the treadmill, elliptical, etc. that were in the basement, didn't want to use them, attempt to go to the gym. And I would definitely say Peloton was the start of me really wanting to make that change. Now, look, I was lucky that I didn't have any serious health problems, although having lost over 100 pounds, now in my 50s, definitely feel that I was probably a bit of a ticking time bomb. So that was away in the back of my head. But luckily...
Congratulations, by the way.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I do feel for the first time in my life, this is it. I purged my wardrobe, literally, about, twice I've done it now, where it's like, I am never going to wear that stuff ever again. I feel confident, and we'll get to why I feel that confidence now. But, so struggled with my weight, had moments where I lost, moments where I still remember, when I lived in the UK, I did one thing where I ate 500 calories a day, and again, we all know that's not sustainable. It's not healthy, and of course, lost the weight, put it back on. Remember, I was maid of honor at my friend's wedding. I remember this back in 2005. And these moments come back to you where I wouldn't let one drop of champagne touch my lips. And it's like, this isn't life. Food and drink and whatever are part of life, but you've got to learn your way of managing it. So Peloton was the start, but, and especially Crystal, because I know you read all the groups. A lot of folk will say, I've got my Peloton. I hope I'm now going to lose X pounds.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, I don't think exercise alone will do it. Exercise is a wonderful way to get you motivated and get you more in touch with your body, but it's nutrition. It bottom line comes down to nutrition. So I probably lost about 15 pounds with Peloton. Good. Plateaued, stalled. So we're now summer 2018 probably. And my uncle, who is my closest relative in the whole world, my mum unfortunately passed away a few years back. Super fit guy. So this guy's in his 70s and he climbed Kilimanjaro about 4 years ago.
Wow.
So he's super fit and constantly, without making me feel bad, was like, maybe you need to lose a bit of weight, some exercise, etc. And he was visiting his daughter who lives in New York, my cousin. And I was like, great to see him, but maybe I can go to the Peloton studio. And then I thought, so the bug gets slightly bitten, but not fully. So, my first 8 months, I probably did about 50 rides. So that's still better than I was doing, but, still not super consistent if you work out how many that were 8 a month. And so I started really riding because I didn't want to be a dork, New York, they're going to make fun of me, etc.
I totally get it. It's intimidating. You don't know what to expect the first time you walk in there.
And that desire was more than my, when I was overweight. So I was like, I don't want to be an idiot. I'm self-conscious and, all these skinny, gorgeous people. I have to say the Peloton studio folk could not have been nicer.
That was my experience as well.
Amazing. This person said, I see it's your first time. Let me show you around. And is there anything I can tell you? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm even more in love. And so I did probably in that 5 days, aside from seeing my uncle and my cousins, about 5 rides. I literally went every day. We literally had a hotel that was at that time across the road. So let's just say the bug had bitten by that point. So, I came back, I kept up the exercise, but I wasn't losing anymore. So it was probably January 2019, this program called Noom popped up. in my feed. And something appealed to me about what they were saying was that it was all about get rid of the guilt. Stop the, oh my God, I've blown it today. And then you go nuts. Not that I was ever really somebody who did that, but I certainly was probably having more calories than I should have. It just, you hear a lot, and you hear Dr. Jen say this, intuitive eating. Well, when you've got a lot to lose, you don't have the intuition. You've got to learn the intuition, Right. So Noom for me was great. And, I lost another 60, 70 pounds with Noom. Now, over a 1.5 year period, which included being in quarantine in St. Martin, because we got stuck here.
Yeah.
So, a lot of weird things going on. We all know 2020, 21, actually, crazy years. So I got another chunk of weight off and stalled again. And this is another thing, you see people go, I'm going to lose weight by a certain date.
Mm-hmm.
You put so much pressure on yourself because every pound you lose is another pound towards it. So I got out of that mentality of when's the deadline or what's the event by. It's just every pound I lost was moving forward. But again, I'd stalled, I was stuck. And Noom, again, they got me to that more intuitive approach. And then we heard of MetPro. Now, what's really funny is I was cleaning out my photographs because, you get thousands of photographs on your phone. And I actually found something I had snapshot of MetPro probably 4 years ago.
Really?
But I did nothing. I mean, I found this thing and I was like, oh my God. I actually saw something pop up, took a snapshot, and then obviously did nothing about it.
It's funny.
But MetPro for me, and I know you guys are also, and yes, I heard of it through you guys, but it was the next stage for me. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't have lost all the weight with MetPro, but MetPro has really got me into this natural food, good food, not hungry. I saw somebody wrote once on one of the threads, is it sorcery?
Well, because it worked for me, and so they're like, if it worked for Tom, there has to be witchcraft or
it's odd. It's like, I used to, through Noom, it was like, I can have low-fat food, low-sugar food, diet food, and count the calories. And again, that was part of that evolution for me. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, I don't want it. It's like...
Yes. It's so true. It's so true. It takes you to a new level because you get used to not having the sugar all the time. And that's a huge game changer because of the cravings. I crave the sugar. And so craving the sugar
Crystal, it's funny you say that. After dinner used to be my biggest issue where I would need something.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I managed it and I had it within my calorie allowance or whatever it was. But it was like, it might be an ice cream or it might be a chocolate or something. I just don't want it now. It's like, what happened?
You stopped the cycle. You stopped the cycle of sugar cravings. That's what you did.
And I mean, my husband is completely the opposite. He has a very sweet tooth, and that's fine. That's his thing. He's never had to struggle with weight, which is,
infuriating. It's okay. You can say
it is, but he's wonderfully supportive. So, I take that, it's his journey, my journey.
Sure.
But he'll order a dessert sometimes and I'll have one spoonful and I go, that was nice.
Yeah.
Again, Noom taught me that if you don't like it, for the sake of eating it, If you like it, enjoy it. But if you don't like it, don't go into this fog where you just mindlessly eat it regardless.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So important.
So, I think I'm at a point now, and I'm still doing MetPro. I'm still, those last 5-10 pounds, I'm probably happy where I am, is like, they're the hardest. They've been there a really long time. So
they've got seniority.
They do. Yeah. They do have seniority.
It's a union.
They do. And I've lost now with MetPro about 25, 26 pounds, and it's taken me about 7 months. And I don't care because I'm now at a weight, good God. I mean, I sent you the picture, Crystal, and you have to tell me if they're okay, of a black lace evening gown. And I saw
that. No, I saw it. It's great.
So do you know that dress fit me probably for, I'd be lucky, God knows, 2 weeks, 23 years ago.
I mean, that's.
And it never fit me again. And it was at the back of the wardrobe. And there I'm doing the purge and I'm going, God, let's see if I'm even remotely close, and it fit perfectly. And I'm like, now I just need somewhere to go with a black lace.
Stupid COVID.
Yeah. Well, stupid anything. I don't really live a lifestyle that has black lace evening gowns very often.
Okay, but you spend half your time in St. Martin, so
that is true. Yeah, that is true. But Seattle's not your most elegant, black lace evening gowns either.
I get that. I'm just saying it's a trade-off, and I think if you have to trade, that's a good one.
And I'll take it. But still good to get back in the dress. It really was.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
I have that with hoodies. I was wearing a hoodie that I won at a conference I went to that I was never able to wear, even though it said XL, and now I put it. It's like,
yeah,
it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's all that hard work, and it also, like, I don't know about you, Roz, but like, Tom still struggles with it. He'll like look in the mirror and be like, I don't like, where did I go? Like it's not who he expects to see in the mirror. It takes a while for the internal you to catch up with the external you.
Oh, 100%. I'll when I was purging the wardrobe and I'm looking at things going, I don't think that'll fit me. And then I put it on and it's loose. I'm like, so my head isn't yet aligned, even though this has been a 2.5-3 year period. But that's my other thing. I had to take the time. It had to be slow. I had to eat. You see people go, I've plateaued. What'll I do? And it's like, enjoy the plateau. You didn't put it on. Each bit is stabilizing yet again, So for me, it's been very much this,
stair-stepping
process. Yeah. But even in COVID, weird year for all of us. I'm in a place I've never really had to live long term. I still lost another 15 pounds through the year. So it's doable, but you've got to be realistic and know, what can I do that's within my terms of reference right now? So definitely 2020, not that I actually needed to lose another 50, 60 pounds, but that wasn't something that was going to happen at that point in my time. So I was just relieved while everybody else is saying, oh God, I've put on that COVID-19, as they all called it, or 38, as one friend said, is like, for me, I still managed to, again, solidify this change in my life and plan ongoing.
So why do you think it's stuck this time?
I think the exercise. So even though I said exercise won't help you lose when you've got a large amount of weight, it's now part of my DNA. So, as I said, I used to come home, sit down in front of a television and watch television, right? Well, sort of watch television because I was also working. So I don't think I really even did that properly. Yeah. Now it's like, I schedule time for my Peloton or my tonal or my swimming when I'm here, because we can swim here. Don't swim much in Seattle. It's a little cold, even in the summer. So for me, it's now, I think the exercise has just got my metabolism efficient. I also think MetPro has got me very efficient. And this is what you see with this whole, upcycle, downcycle. When I first started this thing and I heard about people doing macros and all this and meal prep would have sent me into a tailspin.
Absolutely.
It's like, I'm not ever going to do that. And you'd hear of these people who spent their whole Sunday meal prepping. And it's like, what the hell? Right. I don't get any time off. I'm not going to spend my time chopping vegetables. But, it's actually not that hard. I have some protein in the fridge, some shrimp or chicken. I have brown rice. I have veggies. I can throw a stir fry together in 4 minutes, or a salad.
I feel like for me, it's such a shift, because it's like before I would try to take whatever I was eating and shove it into the macros I had been given. And with MetPro, it's like I approach it differently, because it's like, well, these are the things I can eat, and here's how much you can have of them. And so it's like, okay, make a bunch of chicken, make a bunch of turkey, and then it's like, okay, now I can have however many ounces for that meal, and boom, like that. It's so much easier for my brain to process. And it's like, these are the things you eat. Done.
And while it takes time on a Sunday, if that's the day you choose, it also buys you back time during the week.
Yes.
Because it's just like you just grab your thing and you're ready.
And I don't have to think about it anymore.
And when you were doing macros, like, and I know it works for some people. It's not like it doesn't work, right? But it was just like, I'm like, oh, diets suck. You know what would make it better? Let's add math.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So true.
And see, I never did the macro thing. For me, it was like, even reading about it was scary. It was like, I'm just not doing that. It's just, and it even doesn't take me that long to prep it. Like, the big thing for me is as you said, some chicken. My go-to, especially in Seattle as it was getting colder, because now I'm back to salads again, was some protein, chicken, tuna, whatever. I'd have some vegetables pre-chopped up like peppers. I love peppers, baby carrots. And then I'd have brown rice. I do a whole thing in the rice cooker and the rice just sits in the fridge. It literally would take me in it. And I think it's also simpler cooking because my go-to spices, I add some lemon pepper because I love lemon anything. So it's lemon pepper, rice, tiny little bit of oil, protein, lunch is done.
Let me tell you about my recipe I did today. I was so proud of it. I had, because I made it up. I made my own like MetPro stuffed peppers. I took a big bell pepper, and I cored it out, and then I put 2 ounces of meat in, and I put a third cup of quinoa in it, and then I sprinkled cheese on top and cooked it in the oven for 450. It was so good,
and it sounds perfect. It really does.
Just delicious. And that's it. That's, and I made 8 of them. So I'm good for the week for my lunches. Like that's the
other thing I find is I can eat the same thing almost every day and I don't get bored anymore because I'm now satisfied and not hungry. A weird one for me was I for whatever reason thought I hated Ezekiel bread. The sprout bread. Yes. I've always liked brown bread, multigrain, but it was like, oh no, I don't like that stuff. And my coach, she said, I suggest you try it again because your palate has probably changed.
Yes.
And I went, no, but I really don't like it. She said, just give it a go. I tried it. I like it. So it's like you've got, I used to have yogurt and I always had to add honey to it.
Yes.
Now I don't. I just add a bit of peach or kiwi or whatever, and it doesn't need anything else. So you've got to be open to trying stuff that previously you would have always said, no, that's not me. Tom, I appreciate. I hear your story. Appreciate you may not try something new, but in my case, going back to the bread.
For normal people,
for
that's
normal
good
people,
advice.
it's true.
Yes, I'm not normal. Here, I'll give you my MetPro recipe. Take meat, drown it in spaghetti sauce. Done.
Yeah.
Like that's
Tom. 3 meals a day.
That's
if that for you works and you don't get bored, that's great because that's what it is. You just got to work out what works for you and make it sustainable. And I think that's the big thing. It's weird when as I said, I live on an island of 400 plus amazing restaurants because they're all competing with each other. The old me would have gone and thought, how much risotto can I have? And I'm allowing risotto. It's funny. My coach, I'm with a coach called Jess. She, at the beginning, it'd be, so do I miss my snack this afternoon because I'm going out to dinner? She said, Ros, we've talked about this before.
Gotta eat it.
Gotta eat it. And it was like my old mentality was save those calories so I can have something. Now I go out and I'm looking on the menu of, where's the grilled chicken or the grilled fish or the kebabs or whatever? Because I don't really want the plate of pasta or anything. It really does change your palate. And it's still in a half for me. It still is. My head hasn't caught up with the fact that a lifelong of, I was never a bad eater. I think my thing was quantities, and, I had a sweeter tooth. I don't think I had a sweet tooth, but a sweeter tooth. And now that stuff is like, I'm still catching on, a bit like your comment, Crystal, about your image, your body image.
Yeah.
I'm still catching on to, I actually eat differently now and want to eat differently than I probably have for the last 50 plus years.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. That's very exciting. So now you mentioned that you got stuck in St. Martin, and I say get stuck like in quotes because I don't know that that's a terrible place to get stuck. But I'm sure that because you weren't planning on it, it was still a very difficult adjustment. So tell us a little bit about that and how you ended up where you're splitting time now between Seattle and St. Martin.
So we started visiting this gorgeous little island, probably 2009, 2010, and used to come back here once, every couple of years if we could. Everybody used to say, why don't you go to Hawaii? That's a lot closer to Seattle. But for whatever reason, the Caribbean was something we loved. And we went to lots of different places. We had some timeshare, so we were able to, go to different places. And in 2019, and it's really funny because, you remember those moments, and we saw a sign in the airport that said, isn't it time you bought? And we both looked at this, and the particular place they were advertising we didn't like, but we were like, maybe we should think about it. My husband's really great with property. He does things and fixes them up amazingly, and he's done that quite regularly. That's his thing. So we started investigating, and through a a longer story than I'll go into, we found this property that had been substantially hurricane damaged.
Okay.
So the actual building, which is a whole lot of apartments, some of them didn't get damaged at all, but ours is the top left corner. And apparently Irma went right past.
Oh.
And we don't know the reason why. Did they not have the shutters? Did they not have the windows up? Was it maybe because it's all about pressure with hurricanes? So if you don't have any opening, it might have blown. But basically we had no windows and 3 years of salt water or salt air coming in, corrosion.
Yikes.
Of course, the funny thing was the hideous red velvet furniture managed to survive the hurricane,
Sure it did.
even if the windows did not. So we saw this place. We first saw it, went, oh, I don't think so. Went upstairs to where there's a terrace, and then just looking out at the Caribbean, went, maybe.
Suddenly, I'm more open.
But it was going to be a really long project. You know, he works part-time for my company. You know, I'm at that point going to an office every day. So it was really nothing to really, you know, there's no way we could make this we would get there over time, maybe come every so often, do a little bit of work. But the first thing we needed to do was get some windows in because it's a little unlivable without the windows. So he came down January 2020 and was going back and forward a lot to Miami, getting material and stuff. They call it the bus, by the way, because it's like a 2-hour flight to Miami, you know. And one of those times, so it was interesting in 2019 that we traveled actually quite a lot for various reasons. A friend had a birthday in Amsterdam. I had a school reunion in Australia. So we just ended up traveling a lot. And my way of handling things back then was find a gym with my iPad, do a Peloton class if they had a spinning bike. For whatever reason, I couldn't find a decent bike. And I'm sure they are here, but I couldn't find one on the island. It was like the gym, I couldn't even clip into the bike properly. It didn't have the right pedals. And I was like, bike, I need a bike. And he said, this is ridiculous because I was only coming for 2 weeks in March, right?
Sure.
He said, seriously, you need a bike for 2 weeks. I was like, I need a bike. Investment in the future, longer term. He said, we're going to take like years to do this place up. Are you serious? Anyway, we got a secondhand bike because back then, well, even now, Peloton won't deliver to the Caribbean. So we managed to find one in Miami. I feel so sorry for this girl because she was like, you know, so we're talking now probably late January 2020. She says, you know, I got the bike, but I really prefer the gym. So I think I'm going to sell my bike.
Oh, poor girl.
She could have sold that bike for like 5 times over probably. But she wanted to get rid of it. So we got the bike here. He still thinks I'm nuts. But again, he's been really supportive, you know, along the way. And I joined him in March. Now we all know what happened in March.
Right.
Yeah.
The world tipped upside down. And back then we thought Seattle was the actual hub of everything. Like we now know COVID was probably around a lot more, but Seattle was where it really came to the world's attention for America. So we said, you know, look, can we stay maybe till April? It'll probably be over by then. Our wonderful cat sitter, you know,
we were
she's got
so
our
naive back then.
Oh my God. So we have this lovely girl who looks after our kitties when we're not there, and we don't bring them when it's only a 2-week vacation or whatever. And we say, you know, hey, Jenny, can you stay to April? She said, well, no one's really asking me to cat sit right now. So sure. By April, there were no flights. So we're now stuck. They had a couple of expatriate flights, but they booked up so fast. So meanwhile, Mike's churning along and doing things up and recabling things. And again, once the windows were in, it was actually very livable. It wasn't the nicest place to live, but it was very livable. Sure. So thank heavens for that Peloton.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my tonal was back in Seattle, by the way. So the funny story there was I was about to put it on pause because I can't use it. And suddenly it logs in. I go, huh? And I realized that the pet sitter has discovered the tonal. So I thought, look, she's being a real trooper. Let's just leave it on for her. So she used the tonal for the 3 months. And, you know, over 3 months, we changed. Well, first of all, my team all went remote. So, okay, remote working actually works. In fact, we ended up closing our office down and moving to a shared working facility that nobody wants to be in. So it's all remote now. And so I kept working, learned how to manage the time zones and everything else, had my Peloton here, and we changed our objective. It was like, let's get this place finished, you know? So we went back to Seattle for the summer, got ourselves all organized and shipped a container of stuff down. We had some furniture and things to ship down and came back October last year, stayed for another 8 months, went back again for the summer and now back here till about March. And this time, well, the last 2 times we brought the cats with us. So
That sounds amazing.
I saw a cat walk behind you.
Yeah.
Oh,
That cat needs a
probably.
Peloton.
That cat does need a Peloton. That's a big cat.
well, it's funny you say that. Is we have one of those huge cat wheels.
Yes.
You've probably seen them.
Yes, I saw the picture.
Well, we bought it for Ellie, the Maine Coon,
Okay.
who won't even look at it at all. And the other one runs on it. And I can send you a video of it. It's really quite funny. Actually, I think I sent it to you in Messenger, Crystal.
Yeah, you did.
You've actually got the little one running on the wheel. She runs on the wheel usually at 2 a.m, which is great. The funny thing about Ellie is during that 3 months, so Ellie is the big Maine Coon, 14 to 15 pound Maine Coon. She learned to use FaceTime, not dialing in. She hasn't got to that point. But the reason she's probably lurking is she sees people on the screen and she wants to be looking at you on the screen. Yeah. And I have a trainer I do once a week over FaceTime. And usually it's quite funny because I'll sometimes hear this voice. She's got me doing something. I'm not looking at the screen. And suddenly I hear, Rosalyn, I see fur. And it's Ellie just staring at the screen.
Well,
we have a cat who likes
we
FaceTime.
shouldn't give your cat trouble for needing to lose weight because it also looks like whenever it's a Maine Coon, they're very big cats and they're furry. They're very furry. I've had a cat that I never proved was Maine Coon, but I thought was Maine Coon, and they are just like a big old puffball. And so
Look, they are a big old puffball, but the vet has said 1.5 to 2 pounds would be nice. The problem is in Seattle, she lives in a cupboard.
Oh.
And here she lives under the bed. Okay. And that's it. She doesn't do a lot more.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
She ignores the wheel.
So completely. Just put her on FaceTime and like make her chase the FaceTime around the house.
No, she would just watch.
Okay. Yeah, that's cat.
When you said she lived in a cupboard, I was picturing like a cat Harry Potter.
Yeah.
No, it's the funniest thing, Tom. It's like she gets behind this cupboard, and so much so we put a camera in the cupboard to see if she's in the cupboard.
Oh my God.
Because it's actually a cupboard that's behind something else. She goes in there and she sits there all day and comes out for dinner.
Well, she likes solitude.
She's a Maine Coon. That's what she's like. If not so much here because it's a little different, but in Seattle, she will run into her cupboard and then the doorbell rings.
Oh, so she knows.
So she hears.
Yeah.
She hears. Yeah. So
social anxiety.
Yeah.
But she's one. But they both traveled really fine. I was such a worried mother. They're both healthy and everything else, which is great. Ellie's 9, Katie's 4. Katie is my foster fail. So as Crystal knows, we foster kittens when we're back in Seattle.
So cute too.
And Ellie still looks at Katie. Katie adores Ellie. Adores her. Ellie just looks at her like, it's been 4 years. Why is she still here? I don't get it. If all the others have left, why is she still here? So, but she's my little foster fail. We joke Ellie is my husband Mike's cat and Katie is mine. So.
Aww, that's sweet. Aww.
So what is your leaderboard name?
My leaderboard name is Dynamic Ros. And, I've always had a lot of energy. I like to say it's, mental energy, we would say before Peloton. It might be the red hair, but you can see I'm animated and everything else. So Dynamic Ros, it might have been somewhat aspirational. I put this name there and I'm like, Dynamic Ros. I'm not really very dynamic. Now I think I live up to the name. And I was lucky I got one of those names. I didn't have to be Ros 274.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah. That's the benefit of joining way back when. One of many benefits of joining way back when. So do you have a favorite instructor?
Well, I have a few. I will still, for me, Jess King is the one that I go to. She was the one and it's not for this reason. She was the one who came up in the Bellevue Square store. But when I'm having, and again, find what motivates you is my big thing. For me, even if I'm like, I don't feel like working out today, whatever. If I go find a ride with Jess, it usually will get me past that pretty quickly, although most of them will. It's also great that I had that opportunity to meet so many of them. So for me, going to that studio that first time, and I went another couple of times, it really got me part of that feeling, of actually riding in the studio. And I know for so many of the people now, that's something they haven't experienced and we don't know, may never experience. We don't know what's going to come there. And the new studio is probably going to be different if it does ever open up. So Jess was really my first and my go-to. But along the way, I've done things like the Power Zone, which right now I was getting just the Power Zone wasn't motivating me. So, and I've been a lead 4 times. the lead motivated me. And, I love the mathematics of Power Zone where, again, my rides are mapped out for the week. But when it gets to the point of, oh God, I've still got to get 3 rides in this week, which are of the required rides. Getting in the rides wasn't the problem. It's the required rides I didn't want to do. I'll never love 90-minute rides. I can do them. They're not a problem for me physically, but it's like I've got to literally break it down, get 10 in, 15. Okay, now I'm at 45. 45 I can do, So it's just
I totally do.
Not my, and I may go back to the challenges one day, nothing against them. They're wonderful if they keep you motivated. I was just getting, So
I feel like a lot of people do them and get to that point because there's a certain time for everybody. Everybody's different, but there's a certain moment where you get to and you just miss what called you to Peloton in the first place. Whatever that was for you, it's just you don't get to do that anymore, and and you need to take a break. And
every ride would still do it for me once I did it, but it was getting me to go, oh God, I've still got 3 rides to get and it's Saturday and I've got to do it by Monday. It was just stressful, and it's not meant to be stressful. But, if I name the ones that are my go-to favorites, love Dennis, Dennis, Tunde, Kendall, and it's all at different times. It depends who you feel like. So we have a great thing where I was going to say to my husband, now, which one should I do? And I just start naming the instructors and he's already got a number in his head and he'll go, number 4 was Tunde, so whatever number I say in whatever order. And again, it's like, I really like Bradley Rose. I think he's hysterical. And he reminds me of my time back in the UK. He's just so typically English. Yeah. Love Leanne. Didn't like Ben that much, but Ben doing Power Zone is actually quite interesting. I think it really works for his style. Again, he's not one of my, all the time instructors, but occasionally, love his Ministry of Sound one. That ride was phenomenal. So it's finding what works, and also just keep checking it's still working. I think that's, I love Matt to do occasionally because he's so technical. Mm-hmm. So his low impact rides are just great to remind you of your posture and are you cycling correctly and all of that. But he's not my go-to every day, so.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for people who are just now entering the world of Peloton?
I think I've probably said it a few times, whatever will motivate you, and that will change. So for me, that first motivation was husband was not going to put the clothes on the Peloton.
That gets you to the next milestone.
Yeah. And then, the next one is for me, I don't count the milestones on all the other kinds of Peloton. I do yoga occasionally. I do Pilates occasionally. Tonal, the milestone thing hasn't really caught on with me. I just do my programs and I try and do it steadily. But the milestones with the cycling, as you've probably seen, the funniest was when I said to Mike, I said to him, I want 1,000 in balloons. And he thought I said, I want 1,000 balloons.
Oh, no.
And he just looked at me. He said,
I bet.
Yeah.
He was like, are you crazy?
He was like, this is going beyond the supportive husband to go buy 1,000 balloons.
Especially if you were on the island at the time.
No, well, we weren't. We were actually back in Seattle. But it was still 1,000 balloons is a lot to buy. And he looked at me and he said, honey, are you really what? I said, it's not that much to ask. It's only 4 balloons.
And then he was like, oh.
Yeah. So, and so now that's our thing with the milestone. He did the same for 1,500. The next one will be 2,000. For me, you see the people who say, don't count the 5-minute rides. I don't care. I agree with Christine. Every time I get on that bike, that counts. And if I do a 5-minute cool down, that's another 5 minutes that I wouldn't have done in the old me. So I count the rides. The milestones are a big deal. It's funny because now they've jumped to only for me every 500. And once I get 2,000, it's going to be 1,000. So I made my own one. So you'll see I have a 1,600, 1,700, 1,800 when I get there because I was like, it's too far. I want to count the 100s. The other thing I think that, and Peloton say this, but I don't think you realize it till you do it. That 100th ride is such a mind shift because it really does mean you've developed a pattern. And I don't care if it took you 3 years to do 100 or it took you 2 weeks. That 100th ride is, of course, the 200 and the 500 and the 1,000 are all important, but that 100 is meaning you've really made some kind of consistent change. So get to that 100. That would be my thing. But keep evaluating what's motivating you. So as Power Zone for me, and I'm not saying Power Zone overall, I still like the rides, but the programs were just not inspirational anymore. It was becoming a chore. It's like, and nothing against them. They're awesome. Right. But for me, I needed other stuff. And I'm now motivated enough that I don't need that programmed to make me do it, which when I first started Power Zone, it was great. The whole week is mapped out for me. I don't even need to think about it. I've just got to get these 4 or 5 rides in, and it's, again, just keep evaluating what's motivating you. And if it's not, whether it's an accountability partner, whether it's a supportive spouse. So another thing is, and again, my struggle, and I'm still dealing with this one, is getting enough sleep. It's not that I have trouble sleeping. It's getting me into bed that's the problem. Because I get my second wind at night and I can keep going. And husband crashes out because he's been doing like renovation all day.
Sure.
And if I wake up and go, oh, should I have another hour's sleep or should I work out? He will always say work out. And that's just his thing. He would say, no, get up, go do it. Of course, once I'm doing it, I'm fine. But it's I know if I ask him that question, he's going to say, no, go work out. Of course, up to me. I can still sleep in if I want to. But it's having that person who will remind you why you're doing what you're doing. Motivation. I have met so many fabulous people through Peloton. And of course, some of that was back during the studio days where you met them when they would do the HRIs, whatever they called them. But I've just made friends along the way. And some of them are just, one lady was posting about her cat had got very sick. And I reached out to her. And she was visiting Seattle. They were running a cruise to Alaska. This is about 3 years ago. And now we went out for dinner and we've stayed in touch. I've just met some fabulous people through this community, which I don't know, and you talk about this a lot. I don't know how the competitors are necessarily going to catch up with that.
You can't.
It's the people who have joined Peloton and who have created that community. They did that. I mean, Peloton certainly benefited from it, but it's the people, you can't replace that. You can't make that happen. That's just
lightning in a bottle.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we all talked about those of us so this was another motivation we had. For the first 1,000 rides, my husband would buy 100 shares every time I did 100. Right. And,
wow.
And I was at about 600 or 700 when they went. So we got quite a chunk at a very low price. Thank God, because they're not underwater.
Yeah. Right.
And it stopped at 1,000. It's like, that's it. It's going too high. And of course, there's lots of discussion. I love John's piece and everything else. I think they're a strong company, but I do think, and I'm not a share analyst or anything else. They have to rethink in this new paradigm where a lot of people join them who don't know the studio, don't know it from a long time before it was public. There are things they're going to have to think about. At the other hand, though, I still personally believe there's so much going for them. So my wonderful uncle, the fit, super fit, now 70-year-old, which freaks me out to say that. So he says his to-be daughter-in-law who lives in Sydney has something competitive, and it's one I've never heard of. So it's not the dreaded one we don't talk about.
The one that.
And he said, he said it's cheaper, and I'm going to go for that. And he went and tried it, and he went, nah, it just. And he used to cycle on the road. He doesn't anymore, but he used to cycle on the road. He said, I'm going to go try the Peloton, and they've now opened up a store in Bondi Junction, which is in Sydney. I'm like, yay! That'll give me a Peloton when I visit Australia.
Yes. That's fabulous.
We've all got to keep our fingers crossed that he buys it.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, remind everybody where they can find you on social media if you would like to be found.
Absolutely. So it's Facebook and Instagram, really, for me. What do you call it with John? The tickety talk? I haven't got there yet.
The tickety talk.
And I'm not really a Twitterer. So for me, it's going to be Rosalyn Arntzen on Facebook or Dynamic Ros on Instagram.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it.
We do.
And thank you for taking time on your Sunday. So,
Of course. Well, you take care of your kitties and enjoy your time there, and tell your husband thank you for all of his technical assistance.
And let me just add here, if ever you would like to record a clip out on the beautiful island of St. Martin, please just let us know. We would be happy to facilitate.
Oh, well, I am certainly all in.
We can talk that one offline, but
definitely
just throwing an invitation out there.
I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
We love visitors. We really do. So,
Clip out.
So I guess that brings this episode to a close. What, pray tell, do you have in store for people next week?
A highly anticipated interview with Brittany Allen, the fashion designer.
Ooh.
So I am really excited about this, and I've been dying to post it. So here we go.
Awesome. Well, until then, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/Crystal Z. O'Keefe. They can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, the bike, and the tread, all at Clip Out Crystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. Find the show online, facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, you can subscribe to that as well. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep pedaling
and running.
Clip in, set yourself